We make the strings
louder.
Alright guys, back at the shop working on the Civic again today. This is part 6 of this build. So as you guys seen in yesterday's video or 2 days ago video, we did get this thing actually fired up. We got the complete DYNO fuel system installed. We got all the K-tune parts installed right here. And we also got the engine actually running by itself on the E85 with the ECU master connected to this harness. So I did have to change the injector plugs over to the DYNO style. And as you can see, I have a fuel pressure sensor right here. And we have a couple extra sensors on the engine that we're not actually using. So ECU Master EMU Black has a built-in 5-bar map sensor into it already. So you basically just run a vacuum tee right to the ECU and you don't have to run an external map sensor, which is really nice. And that ends up saving you, I don't know, probably like 60 to 100 bucks in an extra sensor. But yeah, so we have these 2 map sensor plugs. There's one on the throttle body, one right here. I basically just have them plugged right now. And you can see this is the plug that actually goes into them. So I was probing around a little bit. So this has a 5-volt signal, a signal reference, and then a ground. I'm not sure in the correct order, but this one does have 5 volts right here. And this sensor does take a 5 volt, a ground, and then a signal that goes to the ECU. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna backtrack this one back around up through this harness and then back down here to the oil pressure sensor, aftermarket oil pressure sensor, just like this. And then down here, this is the charge harness that goes to like the knock sensor and everything. It plugs into this harness right here. So we're gonna actually use this one for the fuel pressure since it's already down here. That's a 3-wire plug as well. We're basically gonna go right up here to the bottom and up through the bottom of the intake manifold right there. So that's gonna be our fuel pressure. We're gonna have oil pressure back there. And then right here we have this evap solenoid. And so one of these sides right here, that one, this one has 12 volts on it. And that's what we need for our boost, our 4-port boost controller. So one side gets 12 volts all the time with the key on, and then the other side is a pulse width modulated ground. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off this plug and extend it down a little bit, and we're gonna run that to our 4-port boost controller. And so basically what I'm gonna do is gonna go back and probe through the harness right here for the map sensor plug. We're gonna come over here to the factory plug right here, which is probably the A or the B plug. One of these will be the map sensor, probably the ground and the signal. And so what we'll do is we'll just take the signal and we'll tap into that for the fuel pressure, and then we'll find the ground, or maybe we'll just ground it somewhere else. We should be able to find the ground because it doesn't actually have a ground right now. So ground needs hooked up to that, and we'll run that to the ground for it. So lots of little wiring stuff right now. It is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we are planning on being on the dyno at PFI speed tomorrow sometime. So today's Wednesday, 1 p.m. So we have less than 24 hours from when this car needs to leave to go to the dyno. So obviously we gotta do radiator, we gotta do intercooler pipe, we gotta get the turbo, we gotta get the wastegate, we gotta get the exhaust and everything plumbed. We gotta get the brakes bled, we gotta get the clutch bled. We have to make sure everything works. We still have to hook up the drive shaft. We still have to weld in the thing. We gotta install the rear axles, we gotta install the rear brakes. We have a ton of stuff to do today. So I guess stay tuned. So I just got done wiring this sensor right there. You can see with the little looms. The wire that I used is a little bit too thick, so the little rubber things, the little seals aren't working the best. But I went ahead and I put it in this like abrasion loom, and then heat shrinked it down there, and I heat shrinked it up here too, so it kind of looks a little bit prettier. So I actually lost my 4-port boost solenoid. Since we've been running around the shop I just been throwing stuff everywhere, and there's new parts everywhere, and I don't know where it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and wire this plug in for the boost solenoid, and that goes to one of the evap plugs. And then right here, this is the map sensor plug that I'm going to use, the 3-wire for the oil pressure sensor. So what I've been basically doing is just taking all the tape and the wire loom off of it and trying to pull it back, so that way I'm not using, you know, bringing a wire over here and then just backtracking it all the way on top of the harness. I think it would be kind of cool to actually get it to go inside this harness. Like if I could pull it back far enough and it has a long enough wire to actually pull it up in here, keep it in this harness and run it down just the back of the engine right over here, right next to all the VTEC solenoids and everything, and basically pop out right here where the other oil pressure stuff is anyhow. And so that's kind of the plan, is to kind of get it over there. So maybe I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this thing out of the car now, since I have that sensor wired, because that's a pretty simple one, and it'll probably be a lot easier to actually do on the ground. Guys, I've been sitting on the floor for a couple hours now, it feels like. So you can see we got the ECU master black. I have all the wires and everything pinned in here, pinned into there. This is my little auxiliary jumper harness that kind of ties in some other sensors, like the wideband and a couple other little things like that, and a couple other little, I guess some other stuff that needed to be tied into the E-plug. Basically everything's all wired, so instead of having the little jumper harnesses for the grounds and everything, I tied those into there. And there was another plug on here that had power, so I ran that to the ECU power. I went ahead and I wired in the oil pressure sensor. We have this is the boost sensor right here. The fuel pressure sensor ties into that harness right there. And then we also have the intake air temp sensor, which that obviously was already in there. Extended the wiring for the TPS. And yeah, did the injectors. I wish I would have had this loom out yesterday. I didn't think I had any more left. I wish I would have did it on there, but yeah. So I ran the harness for the map sensor harness. I converted that to the oil pressure harness, ran it through here, and it's coming out back there, so I should have plenty to plug in the oil pressure sensor. Kind of just cleaned everything up, zip tied it all back together, and everything should be good. So I guess the order of operations for getting like the oil pressure sensor and stuff is I just stuck in the little wire tester right there on the little beep mode, stuck it in there, matched the wire color over here, beeped it, and then did the input on the ECU master. So you can see like right here, I did the oil pressure sensor to analog in number 1. So I came over here and where's analog 1? So analog in number 1, so went to B31. Same thing with fuel pressure, boost pressure, all that type of stuff. I don't think we're going to use ethanol on this one for now, but if I do that later, I'll just tie it into this harness. So that's pretty much it for that. I'm going to go ahead and lay the harness back in the car and start kind of routing this stuff and actually taping and zip tying this stuff back up together, getting it laid out nice, and then I'm going to fully wrap it and then go ahead and stuff that in the car. So we are super close. We're pretty much ready to move on to the next like 10 things. Alright, so I went ahead and installed the harness on this thing. I got it wrapped in this like 3M fabric tape. They call it friction tape, whatever that means. So I don't know if it's good for heat or not, but I'm definitely gonna wrap all this stuff in heat stuff just because it is so close to the turbo manifold. You can see I was kind of mocking up the turbo real quick. This is the turbo off of the sleeper, which I feel bad because that thing just got robbed. It got robbed of its E85 last night, got robbed of the turbo. So I need to clock it because right now it's completely upside down and the housing is pretty tight in there. But once I get that clocked, I could run the oil drain line and I could run the feed line, and then I could start actually mocking up some sort of a down pipe or up pipe or whatever exactly we're gonna do on this this whole situation. So we have been thrashing on this thing for a little bit longer, and you can see we got the radiator hoses all hooked up. We got the radiator in here, made some mounts for the bottom, and then Koyo supplies these little mounts right here, but this is for an EG or an Integra, so I did have to kind of drill a hole and then kind of modify the bracket, but it's rubber mounted right there, so it has a little bit of wiggle in it. I went ahead and I got a SPAL 12-inch fan that's really low profile, so that should be good. And this radiator is a cross flow, so you can see how it's welded right there. So the water has to flow out of here over there down and then back over to here, or vice versa. So the fan is going to touch it's going to cool it no matter what. And plus, most people run just a half-size radiator on these guys anyhow, and they're fine with that. This is just going to give us some extra cooling capacity. So now we have right here, we're going to take a little 90 and go down for our intercooler pipe. We have the turbo all clocked, basically where it needs to go. I spent a long time clocking this thing and tapping the holes on the bolts and doing all kinds of stuff to try to make it really solid. So we have the oil drain, which is hooked up right there, going straight down. We bled the clutch. We need to tighten the bolts down for the back, so we need to fab an up pipe of some sort. We have the wastegate mounted back there, and I am going to be using these push lock fittings, which you can't really see that, but yeah, you can see the wastegates back there. So we have just a tiny little bit of room for the heater hoses, so I'm gonna probably plumb those in to the actual core real quick, and then I think we could actually fill coolant in it and actually start it after I hook up the oil line. So we have to hooking up the oil line over here to the factory oil pressure sensor with an AN line going over there. So I'm gonna hook up that stuff too. And then we could actually fire this thing, let it warm up, and do all that type of stuff. Probably drive it. But update on the dyno. So it's 1:30 in the morning. We were planning on going to the dyno tomorrow at probably like early afternoon or something like that. So I'm probably gonna thrash on this thing for a couple more, maybe like another hour and a half here tonight, stay here till 3. Try to get down here early tomorrow with the trailer and everything, try to finish everything up other than the drive shaft stuff, and then head up to PFI and hopefully get a tune tomorrow night. Streetcar takeover is on Saturday. So we have lots of stuff to do. Alright guys, so kind of have a little bit of bad news. It is 3:50 in the afternoon. I've been here for a couple hours trying to diagnose a wiring issue that I caused, and I don't know exactly what happened, but last night I put this harness in here and we basically tried to start it. We put the TPS off of the Type S on there, so I got on the computer, plugged everything in, and was looking at it and had Ty, kind of adjust it just to change the voltage, because I did scale the voltage at like 1.7 volts to get it to read 0, because the CRV TPS was clocked way differently, so it was already stretched like halfway. So to make it read 0 when it was at 0, I just scaled the voltage up. So then I scaled it back down and then tried playing with it, and no voltage at all coming to it. So I was like, okay, well let's see if these plugs have voltage. So this yellow and blue, that is a 5 volt signal. The green and yellow, that is a sensor ground, and then this is the sensor wire that goes back to the ECU to tell it the TPS percentage. So we started beeping around. I connected just like this on the inside of the ECU, connected to that 5-volt signal, came out here, it beeped just fine, connected it to this one, to the ground, and it beeped as well. So I think what happened is the 5-volt signal shorted to ground somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where or why or what exactly happened with it. The only thing I could think that maybe happened is when I was trying to plug in this plug yesterday, but I don't think they would really touch. So I didn't have the little plug thing on here. That's the only thing I could think, is that these things touch kind of, but because I didn't have the little cap thing to go on it. But other than that, I don't see any other way. I don't know. 12 volts got to the 5 volts, or the 5 volts shorted to ground. And so the ECU is actually not producing 5 volts anymore. So Dave is over here messing with this thing, and gonna wire it up on the bench just to see what exactly is going on. We're gonna try to see if it has a 5-volt output when we connect it to the ECU. So taking out all the other sensors and type of stuff just to see if we could actually get it to work, to give us 5 volts. Because if we get it 5 volts, and we leave these sensors unplugged, we might be able to make some stuff. But I don't think we're gonna be making it to the event unless some miracle happens, because I still need to do intercooler piping, I still need to do exhaust, we still need to hook up the axles in the rear and weld the diff mount and everything. So things aren't looking so hot for the Civic.
All right, Chuck, give us a rundown. So the harness is back out of the car. Why are we
So the
doing
harness
this?
is out of the car. David is going crazy on this thing. He's gonna figure it out. And we went ahead and pulled apart the actual ECU, the ECU master, and there's two little super teeny tiny like fuses in there, and they were both popped for the 5-volt signal. And so if we could figure out this wiring, we could jump over that and kind of bypass it with some solder, and hopefully this harness works. If not, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna steal the harness out of the Type S. We're gonna take apart an ECU. We're gonna make a jumper harness to the ECU master, and then from those plugs, basically, I have another set of plugs from the Supra. So we'll basically make a jumper harness that plugs into stock ECU connectors so that we don't have to mess with anything. And then, like, worst case scenario, plug in a PFI for the weekend and then go back to ECU master after we figure out this whole situation. So that's if we can't get it working. The other thing is, I guess we'll take the Supra to street car takeover. I thought about taking the ECU out of the Supra because it's on the EMU black as well, but I don't want to fry it as well. So I don't know, we'll see. While Dave's messing with this wiring harness real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and throw in these axles just so like I could actually set the car on the ground, put the brakes and everything on it. We'll do the drive shaft later, but I'd like to actually get it to where if we do get it running, we can back it off and do all that type of stuff. So I need to throw these axles on. A lot of people were mad because I was just gonna cut and weld the stock axles. So in the Wago van, or in the RT 4WD wagon, one of the axles is long and one of the axles is short, and it's kind of a rare pattern to get. Like you can't just go to O'Reilly's and buy one of these. So in Insane Shafts, they have a set of 500 horsepower rear axles, which is the same ones that I have in the front. And basically I just ordered two of the left-hand drive ones, the left-hand ones on the car, which are both the long ones. So I'm gonna go ahead and stuff these in the car real quick. Just pick up these arms right here.
right, Dave, so you've been at this for about 3 hours.
Yep.
Dave says he's about almost done. Do you guys believe him?
I'm excited. So what have you found? What have I done wrong so far, Dave?
I mean, I haven't really paid attention.
You haven't paid attention. That means I didn't do nothing wrong. How about that?
I just have been fixing this mess. That's what I do.
So,
Did you tell him where you're gonna run it?
Your ass.
oh, David, now I gotta beep that out.
Dave.
So Dave says he's about done.
Is this the Discovery Channel?
Dave says he's about done over here. Trevi just got back from dinner. And Trevi got the rear brakes and all that rear stuff going on. This is almost done to Dave, which looks bad, but it
Dave
really
is actually gonna run the whole the harness through the top of the valve cover right here.
yeah.
So everything's gonna be right here, so we're not gonna have to go into the turbo. Everything's just gonna go up right there, which is gonna be really nice.
It'd be nice to be away from the heat a little bit. And then now, there's something missing right here, Trev. What do you think?
Oh, like intercooler piping and.
Yeah. So
We should probably get to that. Huh?
So let's get to that, yeah, so we can, because you can't make no choo-choos without,
Can't do the choo-choo boys without no choo-choo
thing.
boy pipes.
so
I need to button up the rear and then we'll go.
then we'll get to that.
All right, so Dave and Ty ran to Walmart real quick to go grab some zip ties, and I think they went to Sonic to grab some shakes too. Dave's been down here for a little while, kind of messing with that thing, and I really, really do appreciate Dave doing that because I don't know, I was just gonna go crazy, mess with that thing. So the harness is gonna turn out really good. It's nice kind of having him mess with that. And so I went ahead and I've been playing with the intercooler a little bit more. I actually leveled it out. Well, it looked level to me at least. Doing a little strap right here for now, probably cut off that end, and I could kind of adjust this in and out, and then we can make some brackets later, but this is kind of getting her mocked up pretty well. So a straight out of here, a 90 right there kind of coming down, and we're gonna kind of 90 it again, and then go back around. So kind of the plan is to, maybe I could probably actually get away right here with like a 45, and then 45 it over, tuck it right here, and then have this as the inlet, drill this a little bit bigger so we could put a tube through there. And you can see you got a little 90 kind of going up, or going basically straight down there. So we'll kind of clock that off to the side a little bit and have that come right around here and go straight into the intercooler. So that is, that's pretty much that. I did go ahead and I was working on the brake lines back here. So I got the rear brakes all in these rear trailing arms completely bolted up, got the axle nut all tight. You can see, got brand new stainless braided lines going to these things. I know everybody was upset about me letting them hang and stuff, and that was kind of my plan this whole time. So yeah, all the bolts and everything are tight. Tighten everything up on the rear diff mount. So man, it's like 10 o'clock at night. I don't know how this dyno did, if we're gonna make it or not, because literally, if we're gonna do it, we'd have to be up there at 9 in the morning, which means we'd have to probably leave here at like 6. That's not that much time. I have to fabricate intercooler pipe, we gotta start it, we gotta run it. I have to do exhaust stuff too. We gotta bleed the brakes. We have a lot of stuff to do. I'm gonna start working on this. So Dave's been messing around with this harness over here. But Dave, what did I do?
You shorted the 5 volt ground.
Where?
Right.
Where did I do?
These two connectors.
So the coolant temp sensor, the IAT, they got it for some reason. I gave them 5 volts or 12 volts. I don't know. I shorted it to ground. That's what happened. Dave's cleaning it up. I'm playing with intercooler piping over here. So I got this little section right here. Basically, you just need to kind of stick that on there and weld it up, and that will be my output. And then right here we have a 3-inch input. You can see that kind of goes down 45s right around this edge. I'll probably actually cut that off just a little bit. It's kind of long, and then this should kind of suck back a little bit and give us a little bit more of a nice angle right here. But yeah, I mean, overall, for literally just having stuff laying around, like I have a ton of intercooler pipes and stuff from all the random projects and stuff previously, but for just stuff laying around, I think that's pretty good for what it is. I don't know if I should probably run a blow-off valve, but I don't think I have a blow-off valve. I have this one. I have that blow-off valve. I don't know if it works though. It looks kind of broken on the inside. And those things kind of sound. I have a fake tile that I got a long time ago. I don't know. No, I got a new tile wastegate, but I didn't get a blow-off valve. Dave has this engine wiring harness just kind of chilling in the engine bay, getting it all laid out, kind of zip tying clumps of it together, kind of putting it in where it needs to go. So he's messing with that. I just got all the intercooler piping all buttoned up. You can see we have an intercooler pipe going down there. We have a tile blow-off valve. We have an intake air temp sensor. Kind of goes around the edges right here. It was rubbing a little bit, so I went ahead and put this little rubber guy right there. But yeah, super solid. Looks pretty nice. Dave's harness is gonna. Dave, do you think your harness is gonna work?
No.
First start, guaranteed.
Sure will.
I hope. I mean, it's gonna look really nice, especially not running it back through that damn turbo stuff. Alright guys, 4 in the morning, dyno day. We should honestly probably be like loading it in the trailer and driving.
We should already be on the way.
Yeah, we should probably we should be loading it in the trailer right now, not still wiring stuff. So Dave's made some really good progress on here. So you can see basically this whole side of the loom is pretty much kind of where it needs to be. And then, so right here, this is kind of the mess of stuff. So basically, so from what I understand, you're just gonna pull this kind of into the car, get the length, and then like,
I mean, just pull in the car and just pin it.
Just pin it. So are we gonna cut them?
Yeah.
To length? Okay.
Just use new pins.
So yeah, basically pull it, get them all in the same length, freaking lop them off, repin them, pin them into the plugs, and then turn the key. Yeah. What time do you think we'll turn the key?
It's next week.
You thinking next week? I was kind of thinking that was almost when we are gonna do it too. But so I finished the down pipe, up pipe type of thing. I reused the little hood stack that was on the D16, and I think that's gonna line up pretty well with the hood. And it already has an O2 bung and everything right there. And yeah, 2.5 inch for now until we get a different turbo on here. So I do have a 3582 coming. We just don't know when yet. But then we'll do 3 inch and we'll do some nice stuff. So I was working on a wastegate dump tube. I was getting that all kind of mocked up, and then I forgot. Well, actually, I realized one thing, and that's that we still don't have a shifter in there. So I have the cables from the TSX. Those are hanging out right here. And then we have the K-Tune shifter that is, it's just been sitting in the box, just waiting to go in. So while Dave's messing with that, I'm gonna pull out my center console right there with all the shifter stuff and try to do that. So we have absolutely just been thrashing on this thing. Dave has been working on this harness for how many hours? Since 6? No, 5:30. 5.
Like 3. No, noon.
No, it wasn't noon.
Yeah, it was, because that's when I got here.
She got here at noon. You started, well, we were messing, like, diagnosing stuff at like noon. And then, because I went home for dinner at 6, you started at 5. So Dave's almost been working 11 hours on this freaking harness. And I mean, it's turning out really nice. It's gonna be a nice harness, especially with it looped right here. But console stuff. Alright guys, so David got the harness all laid out in the engine bay. You can see all the wires are nice and pretty, exactly where they need to go. And then he has them stuffed up in here. Go all right up in there. So they go up through here and then back out this side. So basically the only wiring that we're gonna have really showing is just this little piece right here. And we'll obviously put some sort of loom on that and then stuff it down through the little grommet there. And then I'll go to the ECU. But yeah, I need to work on depending and doing all this other type of stuff. I went ahead and I installed the shifter cables. This car has always had a weird hole right there. So I think technically the shifter cables should come out a little bit more under like the heater core hoses. But for now, they are right there. And they are hooked up in here. I actually need to put the pins in them. And then it'll probably shift a little bit better too. So let me do that real quick and then I'm gonna show you guys the shifter. All right, so shifter and everything is all installed now. And man, that feels way better than a D-Series tranny. So these are just the stock CRV cables. The TSX cables, they're a little bit different, the mechanism and stuff and the way they mount on the tranny. But yeah, K-Tuned also makes a set of race cables too that are a little bit stiffer, I guess, and help with shifting feel. I should be able to get by with these cables for a little while, but if you stretch the stock cables, they end up getting really hard to shift. So it is 5:40 in the morning, and I think that's where we're gonna call it. Again, we would have had to have been basically on the road right now to PFI, and we still have, we still need to wire the freaking car. So and so many more other like little finicky like things like wire the radiator and blade the cooling system and blade the brakes and just all that type of stuff. So yeah, I guess we're gonna leave it at that for tonight or today. This morning, and we'll come back this afternoon and try to finish up some stuff on this, and I'll probably end up taking the Supra, I think, to Streetcar Takeover. So alright guys, so a little update. It is 3:21 p.m. Should have been on the dyno this morning. Obviously that isn't going to happen. PFI is actually setting up a booth at the Streetcar Takeover. They basically do a pre-meet at like a Twin Peaks thing, so they had to be there. I think they were leaving at 11 or 12 or something this morning to go there, so that's why we're not dynoing it tonight. But yeah, so they're gonna be busy with that basically for the whole rest of the day. So that is gonna be where we call it on here. I went home, well actually I went home, I slept for like 2.5 hours and grabbed the Supra. So there's a couple things that we need to do to this. I need to charge AC and do a seat and clean it up and do all that other type of stuff. But that will probably be in another video. I know there's a lot of new guys here for the Civic, but if you guys have not seen my video on this Supra rebuild, this thing looked like, just go watch the video. I'll put a little link up here in the description. But yeah, that I guess is gonna be it for this video. I really wish I didn't mess up the harness, because we would have been on the dyno, we would have been making some freaking power. But stuff happens. I don't want to rush it. I don't want to have any issues, or, you know, there's just so many more like little tiny little things I need to do. But if you guys are interested in this project, be sure to subscribe. Go check out the other videos, the previous videos, and subscribe for more for the next video. So see you guys later.